Hello, today I'm going to show you how I made this graduation sloth. So when I say made a graduation sloth, I just mean I made the attire. I did not make the actual sloth, that was from Asda, thank you. So basically I'm going to show you a time lapse of me creating it and give a bit of voiceover to explain what I'm doing while I'm going along. And then after it I'll do a bit of a conclusion just to explain what I would have done differently next time, anything that's not very clear on the time lapse. So I made this for my partner when he graduated just over a year ago. He got his doctorate in philosophy. And the reason I haven't put it up on the channel yet is just because I hadn't got around to editing all of the footage. But I have now, so enjoy! Hello, it's Chloe from Clubber Creations, and I've just quickly set up the camera because my partner's finally left the flat. Basically, my partner's finished a PhD, he's graduating in 2 weeks, so it's very exciting, but I do need to get his gift sorted out. So basically, he's starting a business and he's working from home, so it means it's really difficult for me to make anything without him noticing, especially because I want to record the progress as well. So he's finally gone out to see his business mentor, which I've jumped at the opportunity to just quickly whack the camera on and do this short introduction. So the plan is I'm going to make a graduation sloth. Anyone who knows my partner knows he is quite chilled out and relaxed, and his spirit animal probably is a sloth. So when it was Father's Day, Asda had these sloth toys in, which were only a £5. It does mean that it's got chilled dad on the bottom, so I'm going to be unpicking that, and then I'm going to raid my fabric stash. I don't really want to buy any new fabric for this project, firstly because I won't need that much to make this sloth its graduation robes, but also we're so inundated in fabric because of all my hoarding, we don't need any more. So I'm going to see, I might have to be a bit creative with my options, but I'm going to try and replicate the ones he's going to be wearing in 2 weeks. But yeah, basically make a replica set for this sloth. So that's my brief introduction, and I'm going to try and record the other bits as I go along without him noticing what I'm doing. So he might be in the background, but hopefully he won't twig or won't ask any questions on what I'm doing, or I can pass it off as another project. So yeah, wish me luck. Okay, so here I've got the graduation sloth, some red fabric, some black fabric, some grey fabric and some blue fabric. So these are all the different colours that appear on the PhD graduation robes for the university he's graduating from. So to begin with, I started trying to unpick the chilled dad embroidery off the bottom of the sloth on its feet. This proved to be completely impossible. So at this stage I decided I needed to leave it for now, but I did end up going back and fixing that, which I'll explain later on. Right, so to start with, I decided to make the actual gown element, as that would use the most fabric. So here I am just squaring off a bit. I folded it over at the top, the side closest to the bottom. Right, so I just cut a hole roughly in the middle for the neck. Here you see I'm just lining it up, and in the centre front I've cut an opening which fits the sloth, which is great. So then I tried to neaten up that neckline a little bit better. After doing that, I overlocked all the way around that front, so the two front sides and the neck opening. And then after that I hemmed it down just using a straight stitch on my machine. So there I'm just cutting some snips into the neckline so that when I press it to make the hem it would fold over easier. So there I am just stitching around that neckline with the sewing machine and cutting off the loose ends. Just doing a fit with the sloth. Here I'm pegging the side bits in, so as you can see I needed to sew down these side seams. Now I've used a bit of tailor's chalk to mark where I wanted to do the stitching line, and then I used some dressmaking pins to hold it in place, and then I repeated on the other side. I checked the measurement that I did on the first side so that it would match up with the other side. Okay, so next I overlocked those side seams. And then I put it back on the sloth for another fit. So I folded it the other way around, so the seam's on the inside now. I've also marked the hem now because it was way too long for the sloth, so I've just shortened it there. I did have a look on the website to see how low academic robes are meant to go, and use that as a rough guide for where to hem it on the sloth. So yeah, after I cut the hem, I overlocked the raw edge. And then I set about hemming it on the machine once more with a straight stitch. Okay, so once all of that was set up, I then put the robes on once again for a fit, to check it still went round it okay, and as you can see, it looks fine at this stage. Okay, so the next step was to work out how to do the hood that comes with the gown. Right, so this is me trying to draw, I think I'm looking at my phone, at an example of what the hood looks like when it's not attached to the gown. So I'm roughly sketching this out to work out how to construct it. Okay, now I'm just marking what colours, which coloured fabrics I'm using. So I'm saying that the grey is on the outside bit in this instance, and then I'd need to line it with red. So, and yeah, I'm just working out how big I want the pieces. So, okay, so I roughly tried to work out the measurements for the hood, and as you can see, I amended it a bit as I went along. After that, I drew it out on I had a bit of tracing paper to spare, so I used that. Then I cut this piece out. Right, so I cut out 2 pieces in the grey, and as you can see here, I'm cutting out 2 pieces in the red fabric as well. It was quite nice using this red fabric just because that's similar to the fabric that they actually use for the hood. Actually, to be fair, even the grey was quite similar, that sort of, I don't know, what do you call it, nylon? But anyway, this was more of like a satiny feel to it. So yeah, after that I then moved it over to the machine and started stitching first the 2 grey pieces together. And then the 2 red pieces together. After that I trimmed these pieces because they were so small. I used pinking shears to help. And then I pegged the grey and red pieces together so that I could sew them in place. Okay, so once I attached the grey and red fabric pieces together, I then used the pinking shears, as these would be enclosed seams anyway, and I wanted to reduce the bulk, and then I turned it right side out, so I'd left a gap in the seam so that it could then be pulled the right way around. As you can see, nice and fiddly. Yeah, still struggling to get it the right way round. Turned out to be a really narrow opening. So in the end I got it the right way round. And then I slip stitched the opening closed. I always had to leave the other edge open just because it wouldn't have come out the right way unless I'd left the narrow opening at the neck. So yeah, I'm just joining them together at the top. Okay, so then I tried it onto the sloth to check it would fit, and there we had it. The sloth's now got a hood. The next part was to add a band of blue, so this just goes on the front edge, so where the gown opens it lays there and comes up, I think, behind the hood and then comes down the other side. So for this I just wanted a straight rectangular tube. So this is what I'm doing here. I've cut out a piece and I'm just going to simply make a seam at the side. So I'll sew up one top short end, the long edge, and then turn it around the other way and stitch the other side in place. In hindsight, I think I did make it slightly shorter than it probably should have been, but as you can see, I probably did leave it right to the last minute, so I didn't go back and make a new one. Right, so once I'd made that, I tested it out on the sloth. I also started pinning the gown and that onto the sloth because I didn't want it to move. You can also see I'm just correcting what the back of the hood looks like. So once I'd pinned all the pieces into place, I started stitching them down so that they wouldn't move. I'm just doing some simple hand stitches here, trying to make them not too noticeable, just so that it won't move out of place too much. Just catching it where it needs to, not adding any unnecessary stitching. As you can see, I'm changing colour where necessary, so I'm also using the bobbins that I've used in the sewing machine just because I know that I might as well use those up, as I'm not sure that I'll need them in the sewing machine again necessarily, so I might as well use the bit that I've wound onto the bobbin rather than using the actual spool. As you can see, I'm being very precarious with the pins by just leaving them on the surface. Oh no, I've just tidied them up. Right, so next I needed to look at making the main part of the hat. So as you might be aware, when you get your doctorate, you get to wear the floppy hat, which I think was one of Phil's main ambitions on getting a PhD, which sounds very cheeky. So to make the circle, I've used a circle cutter, which I found in the works for anyone who's based in the UK. I think it's about £3. It's really useful. You can either use a blade on the edge or you can use a pencil to mark it. So I've used the pencil because I'm not sure how sharp the blade is, to be fair. So anyway, so I traced that onto tracing paper and then cut it out. So once I did that, I did a gathering stitch, so I just did a running stitch all the way around the circumference of that circle and then tested it on the sloth. Okay, so we're on to day 2, so that was one day's adventures on it. As you can see, I'm wearing a different playsuit on this day, although interestingly enough it's the exact same playsuit, which is the Sew Over It Poppy playsuit, which I seem to wear all the time, especially in videos. Right, so I've just used the bit of fabric I've got for the puffy part of the hat to create the brim. I'm not really sure why I made a hole in the middle of this, so as you can see I'm cutting 2 layers for the brim, just to give it a bit more integrity and structure. And yeah, for some reason I cut the hole out in the middle, even though with hindsight I probably could have left it in because I was going to sew the hat on anyway.
So yeah, if you ever make this, perhaps leave the hole in the brim because it's not needed. But obviously, you know, if you were trying to make one that you could detach, I guess you can keep it. Although, to be fair, I'm not sure how well it would stay on the sloth's head anyway. Right, so anyway, I've stitched it together, and then I turned it right side out and then pressed it the right way. And as you can see here, I'm just stitching the close to the folded edge on the machine. I've done 2 rows of stitching, one slightly further in than the other, just to again help with the structure of that brim. To be honest, I probably could have used some interfacing to make it better, but as it was a small hat, I didn't feel like it was necessary for this particular project. So here I am struggling to to make a realistic looking hat, even though I could have left the hole in the brim. So yeah, I'm just stitching the top of the hat to the brim in this section, which was fairly fiddly, but anyway, so I managed to do that, and then I tried it on. Once tried it on, I put some pins in just to put it roughly in place, and then I had to get on with making the tassel. So as you can see here, I used a hanger to help me with this. So you twist it round tight so that it makes a nice cord. Then once I had it at the required length, I put a knot in it and unwound the yarn that I was using. So I've just used some cheap nylon yarn that I already had in my stash, which looked roughly the right colour. And then yeah, so I then pinned it on the top and stitched it on, which actually turned out to be the wrong thing to do for this. It turns out you're meant to have the tassel going round the brim for the doctorate, not going from the top, which is more undergraduate master's level. But I'll probably explain that more at the end of the video. So yeah, then I stitched it onto the sloth's head, which is why I didn't need to add a hole in the hat. And yeah, that's it pretty much done. All ready to go for graduation.
Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the time lapse of me making the graduation sloth. So I'm here with my partner Phil.
Hello.
And the graduation sloth.
Very adorable graduation sloth. So why did you pick a sloth?
Yes, well, I actually said on my original introduction, but I chose a sloth because Phil's he's very chilled out and likes to take things slowly, so a sloth seemed very appropriate. So when there was one at Asda for Father's Day, I thought, that's brilliant, I can adapt that for graduation.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very lovely. Matched my outfit for the day.
Yeah, well, you didn't get to keep the actual gown and that. Not that you'd really wear it
No,
anywhere else.
not exactly casual attire.
No, you can't go to your office job in it.
No, that's a bit strange.
Might feel more like an outcast. So the things I'd do differently next time, the main thing that's really bothering me is that I've done the tassel wrong.
Have you?
Yeah, it really annoys me, but it obviously doesn't annoy me enough to actually go back and amend it. So, what?
It's fine. I didn't realise it was wrong. How's it wrong?
It is wrong because it's fine for a BA or an MA, like so an undergraduate or a master's, because on a mortarboard it comes from the centre, but
Okay.
on the floppy hat you had for your PhD,
Yeah.
it's meant to go around this part all the way around, and then it ties up, and then the tassel comes out from there. It shouldn't come from the top middle.
I see what you mean. I
So-
don't mind. It's very sweet.
Every time I look at it though, I do think it's wrong. So maybe one day I will I will adjust it, but saying that, I've got quite a lot of clothes that I need to fix and that.
You're such a perfectionist.
So I probably won't get around to it, just look at it every time and go, it's wrong. Another thing that might not be clear in the video, I think I said I'd discuss it later, is that I could not get the machine embroidered chilled dad off the feet. So I had to think of another solution, and this was cutting out some felt soles for the sloth. So what I've done is I've used blanket stitch to attach the felt onto the feet, and then I've used chain stitch to embroider my partner's title on one foot, and then I put the date that he graduated on the other foot.
Oh, it's been a whole year.
Yeah, it has been a whole year. Actually, it's only just been a month. Not a month, a year.
No, it's just been a year, yeah.
So it's over a year. It's
Dr. Batsmore.
yeah.
Worth it for the title.
Fair enough, if you say so. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Do you think there's anything else?
I think it's right. It's very cute. It's a lovely gift, and it means a lot to me.
Oh. It was quite good actually on the day, because you could tell people were looking at the sloth and wondering where you could buy it.
That's true.
Because they had those like traditional bears that have the mortarboards, but obviously they don't stock, because lots of people don't go all the way to a PhD.
And they're crazy people. Why would anyone spend 4 years of their life doing one giant project for a title?
Yeah, so you can't get many like souvenir bears which have the floppy hat version. So at least this was more accurate for the title he was graduating with.
It matches the colours.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's a good point. They're normally quite generic, aren't they? Just, have the black robes and the mortarboard. But yeah, it's just a bit more of a personal touch. So yeah, it was a good way to use up some scraps as well. I didn't have to buy anything extra for it, even the felt I had to hand. But yeah, and you got a mascot.
Yeah, it's a lovely gift. And it's because I'm chill.
You're very chill. Okay, well that's it for this time. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you soon. Bye!
Bye!